There are some heartless people out there, such as Diane Staudte. This is a woman who literally poisoned her whole family with antifreeze just to get rid of them. However, this story gets more and more twisted, so stay tuned to know what happened. Sometime in 2022, Diane Staudte claimed she was innocent of all the crimes she was convicted of. However, a while back, she had already confessed to the police that she had poisoned her husband, son, and daughter with antifreeze. During an exclusive interview with 2020, she said, "I said what I was told to say. I'm saying there's more to that than what people know." And even though she claimed to be innocent, there was no evidence that anyone but Diane Staudte and her daughter Rachel were behind these mysterious deaths. About 6 years after she had already pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, Diane Staudte said she was ready to share the chain of events that led her to be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. All this began in 2012, and at the time, Staudte seemed to be living a normal life in Springfield, Missouri. She was a trained nurse, very active in her church, and also the breadwinner of her family of 6. Mark Staudte, her husband, was just a local musician who looked after their children. When asked about her children, Staudte described them as little professors. They all had their little special interests, but boy, they knew everything about their special interests. On Easter Sunday in 2012, Mark Staudte, who was 61 years old at the time, died of what seemed to be natural causes. Most people who heard about this claimed that it was because of his unhealthy lifestyle. According to his bandmates, Mark had been acting strangely on Friday night, saying that he was slurring his words and that his skin appeared yellow. When his corpse was looked at, it was discovered that there was a ring of blood around his mouth at the time of his death. 5 months later, the Staudte family had to face yet another tragedy when Sean Staudte, one of the sons, was found dead. However, for him, he was found to be having flu-like symptoms, and just like his father's corpse, there was a ring of blood around his mouth. However, when an autopsy was done, it was determined that his death was due to prior medical issues, including a seizure disorder. However, things changed in June of 2013 when something became suspicious to the police. All this happened after Sarah Staudte, Diane Staudte's eldest daughter, was taken to the hospital by her mother and her sister, Rachel Staudte. Sarah was then admitted to the ICU, and it was said that she was suffering from a brain bleed and organ failure. But while she was in the hospital, the doctors began to suspect that she might have been poisoned. At the same time, some blood samples were recovered from Sean Staudte's autopsy. After being tested together with Sarah's, there were traces of ethylene glycol, which is one of the raw components of antifreeze. Ethylene glycol is not a typical part of normal toxicology screenings, so to discover it, specific tests are carried out. This is the reason why this chemical was missed during the initial autopsy. Once this chemical was found, Detective Neil McCamus brought Diane and Rachel Staudte in for questioning. From the interrogation tapes, you can see Diane Staudte admitting that she used antifreeze to poison her family members. According to her, she would sometimes put it in her children's Coca-Cola and her husband's Gatorade.
How long had you been giving them the antifreeze before they finally got, like before Sean passed and before Sarah got to the point that she was?
Maybe a couple of days.
And what were you putting it in?
Coca-Cola.
What else?
I think that was it.
How much would you put in?
Just a little bit.
And why just a little bit?
I didn't want to hurt them.
During the interrogation, McCamus went ahead to ask why she did not bring her husband to the hospital, to which she replied, "I hated his guts. I guess I just had enough." In 2022, in her most recent interview, she went on to say that her husband had trouble with hard drugs and alcohol, but that she was not the one to poison him. During her questioning, when she was asked by Detective McCamus why she decided to poison her autistic son, she said, "Sean would be interfering with whatever I would do. He was more than a bother, more than a pest." Eventually, Diane Staudte entered an Alford plea, which acknowledges that prosecutors had enough evidence to convict her without admitting guilt. And in 2018, she was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.